Hello, me lads and lovelies. This is Captain Edward von Arkham, coming to you from on board the MHS Hysteria, or rather, between the mid and lower deck of the MHS Hysteria. Quite literally. Oh, that hurts. Ow. The more observant of you will have noticed that I am less than normally visible today. The less observant of you should visit an optician. Or possibly remove your goggles. That is, if you're wearing goggles. Which you should be. Always wear your goggles. Except for right now. You can take them off now. The chances of you being sprayed in the eyes with some manner of corrosive substance within the span of my log are rather unlikely, unless you're watching my log in a barrel of sulfuric acid, in which case you should probably stop being in a barrel of sulfuric acid. That stuff's unhealthy. Anyway, the reason that you cannot see my devilishly mad face is that I am currently stuck between the ceiling of my workshop and the floor of my cabin, which may appear to be the same element of architecture, but are actually quite different, I assure you. They're not even spelled similarly. But I digress. The more inquisitive of you may ask, Captain Arkham, how did you manage to get stuck between the floorboards and ceiling boards of your ship? The less inquisitive of you should be more inquisitive. Well, it's a funny story. It all started earlier this afternoon when we were flying over Halong Bay in northern Vietnam. An absolutely awe-inspiring piece of natural beauty. If you haven't been, find yourself an airship and get yourself over here immediately. I had let the crew fly to the ground on the lifeboat for an afternoon of leisure and enjoyment. I am nothing if not a generous captain, although that is up for debate. Frequently. Besides, it was my turn to watch the ship. We are a crew of equal responsibility. Everyone does everything. Except the dishes. I don't do the dishes. But I do watch the ship. I didn't mind. The view of the bay from the ship was stunning. A vast glistening pool of water festooned with massive limestone rock formations. I was gazing across the bay at those limestone rocks, and my brain hatched a brilliant idea. I rather fancied playing a game of leapfrog on aforementioned limestone rocks, although it was just me and the voices in my head, so it would have been more a game of a leapfrog solitaire, as the voices in my head are incorporeal. So I popped down to me workshop to augment myself with my hypertension deck-hopping spring boots. This would be the point where I showed you aforementioned spring boots if I were not wearing them on my feet, and said feet were not currently stuck dangling from the ceiling of my workshop. But then, if this were not the current situation, I would have no reason to show you the boots in the first place. Any which way and how, I use my deck-hopping spring boots to leap across the ether from ship deck to ship deck during raids. But as I fancied a game of leapfrog solitaire, I made a few slight adjustments to the spring tension. However, I may have been a tad distracted by the thought of leaping between those lovely limestone rocks, and I may have tightened the springs a wee bit too much. So much, in fact, that no sooner had I laced them up than I shot through the ceiling, where I promptly became lodged between the floorboards. I managed to switch on the record log machine via the remote function on my hat, but apart from that I am completely immobilized. I've tried shimmying myself free, but unfortunately the slightest movement causes an array of jagged wood splinters to dig into my body, and I can't move my elbows to reach my tool belt. Bit of a predicament, really. Not to worry, though. My crew will soon return and free me from said predicament. Any minute now. Oh, that's my spleen. Definitely my spleen. What is taking them so long? Tell you what, I'll try and signal them with my hat siren. Gird your loins, mates. This might be a bit loud. There. They must have heard that. Now just to wait until they arrive. There was a young sailor who looked through the glass and spied a fair mermaid with scales on her islands where seagulls fly over their nests. She combed the long hair that hung over her shoulders and caused her to tickle and itch. The sailor cried out, "There's a beautiful mermaid a-sitting out there on the rocks." The crew came around and were grabbing their... Oh, knickers. Well, we're out of time for today. I'm not going anywhere, am I? Until next time, stay mad, my duckies. Setting her free at the end of the farce, she splashed in the waves, falling flat on her. After a while, one man noticed some scabs. Soon they all broke out with the pox and the scratching with fury, a cursing with spleen. This song may be dull, but it's certainly clean.